Welcome to the What's So Smart podcast, powered by the Huntsville Madison County Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Clark Dunn. Huntsville, Alabama is known as a smart place, but really, what's so smart about it? In this podcast, we will talk to the leaders of Huntsville's economic and cultural development to answer that question. From rockets to genomics, from cyber to music, What's So Smart will explore the visionary and data-driven initiatives that make Huntsville so smart. Stay connected with us on all your social media platforms at A Smart Place. You can watch the full conversations on our YouTube channel at Huntsville, Alabama, USA, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode of the What's So Smart podcast. Welcome back to the What's So Smart podcast. Today I have the opportunity to sit down with Codie Gopher of the 7-2 Experience. Thank you so much for being here.
Man, thank y'all for having me, man.
Yeah, so before we kind of dive in and talk a little bit about what the 7-2 Experience is, I think your perspective as being a Huntsville native is something that it's exciting. I talk to a lot of people, and not often do I get to talk to a Huntsville native as a Huntsville native myself. Talk a little bit about growing up here in Huntsville.
Oh, wow. Man, I was here before 565. Right now I think we've got maybe 12 overpasses on the Parkway. When I was growing up, it was like 3. The Space and Rocket Center was here, so that tech vibe was here, but it still was country. It still felt like a southern town, and as you know, I tell a lot of people growing up here, it's always been a boom time. There's always been an influx of people coming and different cultures and different variety of stories. So I don't think that's anything new. But just from growing up here, just that southern feel. We used to play in the ditches and come home from the red dirt fields, and but it was just a good southern town, southern charm, and everybody was a close-knit community back then.
Yeah, and it's still interesting as someone who has also grown up here my entire life, just seeing there's still pockets of that where I go to different areas of town where I'm like, this still feels like it was when I grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to areas like downtown or even out towards Madison where you're just like, this is completely different.
Completely different.
It's just like night and day different. Talk a little. I know you're big into the music ecosystem here in Huntsville, and Huntsville's ecosystem for music has really skyrocketed over the last couple of years. Talk a little bit about kind of your role and what you've been able to do with that, and then kind of how that ecosystem affects artists in your opinion.
Oh man! So as far as the ecosystem here, we were a DIY company back in like 1999 when we started. A hip hop company called Slow Motion Sounds, and coming from the hip hop space, it kind of, we everywhere we went, we had to say Huntsville.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hip hop question. First place you go, hey, where you from? And so we had to kind of become Huntsville's, flag wavers and really become ambassadors and seeing the rest of the world. I took the music out with me in the military, and just seeing how Huntsville art, Huntsville creations could make people from California or New York react, or even people from overseas react. So, just seeing the music scene grow from a DIY perspective to what it's getting right now, a lot of support from the city, from the music office. I'm a music board member myself. So to see that industry get a solid look, just like the auto manufacturing or Redstone Arsenal or Cummins Research Park, to where music is a part of that conversation, it's surreal, to be honest. Coming from this area, whether it's hip hop or rock, we always felt like we had to go away. Whether it was Muscle Shoals or Nashville or Atlanta, but now it's becoming more comfortable and more a viable situation for us to be in Huntsville. So I think it took a lot of that, as you stated earlier, growing up here, having to build it, having to, see that there's a plot of land over here for music, cutting the trees down, doing the research and development to finally get to where we're at right now. I think it followed the same path as pretty much any other industry here. It was brand new. It had a lot of success early on, but now the world is starting to see what they see in the other industries that are here. So I think music is just running parallel with everything else.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the 7-2 Experience and kind of how that came about.
Oh man, the 7-2. I tell people that's my street. They say, well, what street are you from? I say the 7-2, due to the fact my father's from Huntsville, his side is from here. My mom is from Chattanooga, so the way you get to Chattanooga East is 72 East. And then, as time went on, my son was born over in Florence. So I've been traveling up and down that road for 45 years. And as I stated, I was here before 565 and things of that nature. So that was the major thoroughfare. So to see the changes and even the narrative of the city right now, it's kind of like the wild west frontier going down 565 or pushing eastward on 72. That's kind of been the place that that this city's been in for decades. So just expanding and looking at the future in Huntsville being a hub is just another way to name the Tennessee Valley, because we pull resources from throughout North Alabama, and this common thing that we share, the Tennessee River. Whether you're in Florence, Scottsboro, Decatur, that's a unique space. And, so what kind of motivated us to get to that point was, once again, the music and going to places like New York. And I tell everybody, we became like the number one answers for the number one question: does Alabama have paved roads? So, getting beyond that, I come back home and start doing research on who we are. Like you say, we're beyond rockets. So you've got people like Sammy Davis Jr., who got his start from a guy named Will Maston, who's from Huntsville, Alabama, all the way to Cookie Johnson, Magic Johnson's wife. She's from Huntsville. To Wikipedia, Jimbo Wells, and Discovery Channel, I think it's John Hendricks. So all of these different people are from this area. And so, I'm a competitor, so when I go to other places, they may have onesies and twosies of people that come from where they're from. But where I'm from, as far as I can remember, great people have come through this one small town, from music to scientists to influencers to people, visionaries. So I think that's what made us, really want to put out the 7-2 experience, because not only is it is a historical story, it's a living story, because we feel like people right here, right now, are creating greatness that will be great history in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's, having that distinction of being able to be aware of the people that help us get here, but then also see the direction that we're going now in Huntsville, and seeing that there's going to be a variety of new, as you put it, even influencers, or even a variety of new industries that are going to be represented and are being represented in the Huntsville area. And I think that idea that the region of North Alabama as a whole is really helping rise that. How have you seen kind of the extent of it with Florence and even with Gunnersville and going that direction, Scottsboro, that kind of just all helps what's being done here, and it allows Huntsville's voice and Huntsville's, even in the music scene or in any realm, be seen and heard by more people?
That's a great question. I look at places like Atlanta. Atlanta's like an anomaly to me, so I don't say Atlanta, Georgia, I say Atlanta, Earth. A lot of people want to compare what's going on in their towns or regions to Atlanta, but Atlanta's just an anomaly. But there's things that you can pick and pry from that blueprint that they have. So when you look at Atlanta, that's Fulton County, but I think it's probably 14, 15 counties surrounded that people call Atlanta. So I feel like Huntsville's the same way. If it is the hub of this area, the Tennessee Valley, 7-2 experience, nestled in between the river and the mountains and this Tennessee border above us, well, we're kind of like the Atlanta of this area. So, but Atlanta also depends on the people outside of that city. So we depend on people from Marshall County, Lawrence County, Morgan County, Limestone County to help us. Whether it's the jobs or we're growing into their communities now. In the Morgan County, in Limestone County. So it just becomes a better story when you say, hey, it's Huntsville, but we need these other places as well. So it's just our way of putting our spin on the Tennessee Valley. So it's the 7-2 experience. And all of these, these thoroughfares run parallel from the railroad to the highways to the river. And many people see it different ways, but it's still all of us. It's still the same space. We share this space. And I tell people all the time, it's one of the most beautiful regions I've ever been to, from the river to the mountains to the waterfalls, to the state parks, to just an old country store on the side of the road that got some good food. You know what I mean? Like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So I think it's what, and then to finish that question with this answer is, this place used to be a great place to raise your family, And then you would go get the amenities in other spaces, like the Nashville, like your Birminghams and Atlanta. So I think saying the 7-2 experience is more of like a, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
So when you come to Huntsville, go over to the Alabama Music Hall of Fame. Hey, when you're here, go check out the Cooks Museum in Decatur. Hey, while you're here, go over to Scottsboro and see the Scottsboro Boys Museum. So we can utilize each other to get people to stay here a few extra days versus just stopping to get some gas and moving on.
Yeah, and I think the ecosystem, the music scene, and a lot of different things that have come to Huntsville in the last few years has really drove that. Where it's, you know, you go to other cities. I mean, my wife and I travel a lot, and so like when we're around in other cities and they ask like, oh, where are you from? And you say Huntsville, Alabama, they'll go, oh, I've heard of Huntsville. Like, oh, I was there for a show, or I was doing this, or driving through it. And like, I think the experience it's cultivating an experience in Huntsville that is like what it was when I was growing up, but it's also just elevating that, where like you said, I agree. You can do everything. Like you don't have to, like, there's so much to do here. It's not just, it's a great place to raise a family. You can do that, and then you can do a variety of other things. Thinking through the 7-2 experience and kind of what you've been able to do with that, is there a unique story that stands out to you doing that experience?
Oh man, that's hard. Because I think the greatest experience with that is finding out more. You know, stories that we were up and down these same roads and streets or this building used to be this, but when you start to research that and truly see how many people were here, and we say in the film, this place has influenced the world and most people don't know it. So many people have come through Huntsville or birthed here, So I think that's the biggest experience, just continuing to find how many people are from here, and then you can see like the influences of Huntsville, we've been a part of pop culture, So I think that's been the biggest surprise and experience with the 7-2. I was just watching an MTV documentary the other day, and the first episode of MTV, the first thing you saw was the Saturn V. I mean, like, that's Huntsville, but little did we know like what happens here and the work that happens here and the people who are here, the people who are educated in this area, how far our influence and reach goes. So, and I think that also goes with our identity. It's hard to impress people in this town, in my opinion, because we do great stuff every day. The duality of people who work on, as engineers who get off of work, and who may go do a production, and that production ends up on a J. Cole or somebody's album.
Yeah.
So we just do great stuff all day long. So I think that's just why it's nothing new to us.
And I think it's exciting to hear that, like, as a Huntsville native, and you think you kind of like know the stories of different things, and like you know the history of this or the history of that, but then in the 7-2 experience, you've been able to really dive deep into it, where it's like you're even shocked by some of the things you find out.
Definitely.
Where it's like, I thought I knew the entire story, and I think that's often kind of the lesson, where it's, if you're in it all the time, or you think you know it, or you're from it, you think you understand the whole picture. But then when you start diving in and you start actually like examining what's going on, you're like, wow, there's a lot more to be told here.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to people like William Hampton, Peggy Towns, Miss Jane Deneath. Like, these people were here, and got to give a shout out to Leon Burnett, who just passed away. But these were my mentors and teachers as I probably embarked on this journey around early, late 30s, going into my 40s, and these were my teachers who were just pouring into me, opening up the archives, and just because they saw the excitement that I had about it. So, and they're still learning new stuff, and they're the elders, they're the gurus, and they'll call me, hey Codie, I just found this out, or we just found this in an estate sale. So the story continues to unfold. But the more that I see about this 7-2 experience, and like I say, once again, how much of it we've seen on pop culture, from people like Halle Berry representing Alex Haley's grandmother, and Alex Haley graduated high school from Huntsville. It just, to Tallulah Bankhead being one of the, a true advocate for cultures blending and coming together, and so she's from Huntsville, Alabama, great actress. And so when you tie that into, technology, music, culture, food, and then also being a native and watching how many people from out of town come down here and make it their home, who probably have never heard of it before.
No, like, and they're telling their family they're moving to Alabama, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Are you sure you like?" It's Huntsville. It's a lot. It's not like it's not what you think.
But just think about it. Like, people come down here and have never heard of this place. I've been around the world. I've never heard anybody say, I'm moving to a place I've never heard of on earth. And that's what Huntsville is. And so people move here and end up staying, I've been here 7 years, never heard of this place. But I think that goes back to just the culture and the history. And, like they said, they got the Singing River down here in Muscle Shoals. I think we've got this smart force field down here to where people just, when they get it, it clicks and they stay.
Yeah, and looking ahead, like looking in the future, and as we get through the rest of this year, and even beyond, what excites you the most about seeing this diversification of people coming here, and what the future will look like for Huntsville in the next 5 or 6 years?
I think what we're discussing, like things like the 7-2, Huntsville Revisited, I think those things just need to be, highlighted a little more, a little magnified a little bit, because it adds to the culture. It adds to the distinctiveness of this area. And so just like when people go to New Orleans, they're going to New Orleans for New Orleans culture. And I think as more people move here, the more the merrier. But we just have to hold on to the actual culture of this space. Of course, come down here, let's make it a melting pot, but we got to stick with like the roux and the roots of that pot of gumbo. And I think that's why we're here. And that's why we're doing. And even shows like this, being able to just bring everybody together and tell these stories to where in the future we'll just have a, same identity, same energy, just grown up a little bit more.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about a variety of different things that like you're excited about in Huntsville, that the smart things that are going on. But if you had to sum it up to maybe 2 or 3 things that makes Huntsville so smart, in your opinion, what would that be?
It continues to grow. The only way you can learn is to grow. And the only way you can grow is to learn. So the fact that we continue to grow, I think we're learning a lot. I think another thing I'm seeing is, especially in the music space, it used to be fragmented. Hip-hop was over here, country music was over here, garage bands were over here. But I think through the growth and this, more communication, that fragmentation is going away, and we're starting to learn to lean on each other, work with each other, and I think moving forward, that's going to create a different sound to where we can call that our own. And I think just third is it's just smart people here. Like it's just I hate to say that, because I'm on this show. Like but we smart. Like everywhere I go, somebody's smart. Like nobody, everybody's thinking outside the box that I talk to on a daily basis. And like I can call any side of town or a person from any walk of life, and they're smart. They're doing something. They're trying to, build something, create something. Even if they've been at work all day, it's still people have that desire to build upon, whatever's great that they've seen, whether they're influenced by Huntsville or don't know that they've been influenced by Huntsville. They feel like this is a place of opportunity to grow and learn. So I think that's the dopest thing about being here, that it is smart, and people strive to be smart.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the last little bit, talking about your story and kind of your experiences here in Huntsville. I continue to look forward to the 7-2 experience and kind of how that will continue to grow over the years. I think you're going to have some pretty amazing stories you're going to be able to tell through that. But I appreciate you taking the time with me today.
No worries, man. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the What's So Smart podcast. Stay connected with us on all your social media platforms at A Smart Place. You can watch the full conversations on our YouTube channel at Huntsville, Alabama, USA, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed hearing more about what makes Huntsville so smart.